Welcome back. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Tara Muckerheide, who has an inspiring story about how planning for birth helped her embrace labor with joy and confidence. She recently experienced her fourth birth, and it was nothing like the others. Thanks to her deep understanding of orgasmic birth and with her husband's support, together they navigated labor and birth. She'll be sharing how rolling with the punches without feeling sadness or shame was key to her empowering journey. And there's a surprising twist you won't want to miss. And if you're really curious how a second-time VBAC mama, and that stands for Vaginal Birth After Cesarean mama, with planning, mindset, and even self-pleasure can make a world of difference during labor, this episode's for you. Hi, I'm Debra Pascali-Bonaro, founder and director of Orgasmic Birth and host of the Orgasmic Birth podcast. Tara is a mother of 4 beautiful children. She began her birthing journey with no knowledge and ended up with a lot of trauma from her first 2 pregnancies. She now promotes the importance of advocacy and standing up for your birthing space. And I know you've got a little one there, I think 8 weeks old, Tara. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And you've had quite a journey with 4 different births, and it would be really special to kind of hear kind of where that journey began and a little bit of an overview where I know you mentioned that the first 2 brought a little bit of unexpected trauma rather than what you might have anticipated.
Yeah, so I was 21 when I had my first, so young, and I didn't know anything other than what we're told from, society and the norms. And I was already bucking the system because I didn't want interventions and I didn't want an epidural, and I planned to breastfeed. And I'm the first to breastfeed in my family ever since before my great grandmother. So it's just been, it was new to me, new to everybody. And after 30 hours of labor and a lot of coercion and a lot of, they gave me medication without my knowledge. They did interventions without my knowledge, and things that went against my birth plan ended in what they called an emergency C-section, even though she should not have been. So that was my first birthing experience, and not knowing anything, I went along with it. So then my second birth was a planned C-section because that's what they told me I had to do. And then with my third, which happened to be during the pandemic, we didn't want to go to the hospital. And after they told me they didn't like my bones and that my uterus wasn't built for birthing, I went
Oh my
and found,
goodness.
I went and found a birthing center. So my last 2 were redemptive VBACs with midwives instead of in the hospital.
So I want to just honor, it always hurts my heart. I feel so sad and sorry that you didn't feel listened to and heard and to ever hear anything's done against, someone's knowledge without full informed decision making, which includes consent or refusal. It just horrifies me because we know on any day, like no one wants someone to do something to our body and our baby without our agreement. But on a day that we're giving birth, that's really traumatizing to really realize that you didn't have a voice and choice. So I really want to just put my heart out to you and that challenging time, but also honor your strength and wisdom to be able to come from that and say, I know that I can do this and I know there's another way. And so you didn't take on what they were telling you. And I've never even heard like your bones in your body and your uterus. I mean, how crazy couldn't birth? So what was it like to first get to those midwives at the birth center?
Magical is honestly the only way to put. These are my 2
Aw,
feedbacks.
aw,
Um,
hello.
Say hi. Oh, yep, we're three. Um, Finding my best friend actually who is a nurse, refused to have her baby in the hospital and found them. No. So she told me about them when I end up getting pregnant with my third, and then going and meeting them because we met with an OB, and she, who is a mom, was the one that told me that my bones aren't good enough and that I don't have the space to birth a baby. So Mom, after 2 pieces. Oh, thank you. They told us that I think C-section rate was in the 40%, and got mad at me for asking. And then that day is when we called the birthing center.
Yeah.
And the first time meeting them, they got all of my records from my first 2 births. And they were actually the ones to tell me some of the interventions I didn't even know about, because they had blacked out like my records, and my birthing chart didn't even make sense.
Meeting the midwives was really a completely different model, right? They really honored that what had happened probably was not as needed, right? And the fact that they felt confident that you could birth a baby with 2 prior cesareans.
Yeah, they were more than confident. They said that that I should not have been a C-section in the first place, given the records that they had, because she was crowning. And they pushed her back in, and then rushed me downstairs.
Oh,
So that was different. So then going into it, they knew that if they were to get like stuck, quote unquote, that would be the part where I needed the most help. And they did that. They had a doula who was there with me the whole time and told me, like when I got scared, she literally forced my hand down there and she was like, nope, feel his head. He's coming. You're good. Let's go. And he was born like 2 minutes later. Here you go. You can have the whole thing.
that's
So
wonderful. And how did you feel after that first VBAC? What was that like?
it was a redemptive birth. It was exactly what we wanted. Hindsight, I wish I would have done maybe a little more homework for the labor part of stuff, but to be able to say, like, I am not broken, my body is doing what it's supposed to do, and I can have a baby.
Yeah.
And we went and we did it, and he was amazing. And he got caught up in the exact same spot that my first one did. And it was this rush of like, if I would have known about midwives in the first place, I never would have had a C-section ever, because they would have known what to do, because I don't think hospitals know what to do in certain situations, and it should have never happened that way.
Yeah. I hear you on that. And I think important for people listening, right, that there are a real difference between midwives and doctors. And doctors, we need them and, they have great training, but their training is very much for doing surgery and interventions and in models with better outcomes than the United States. Often everyone sees a midwife unless you need higher level care. But when you're in a model like in America, where you start with the highest level care, they often, as you say, don't always have the training and the skills that can keep birth low risk in a more, gentle way. So what a big shift for you. And then now take us forward. You're expecting baby 4. Now you've had 3 very different experiences.
Yeah.
And what do you do different now in preparing for this birth?
So I acted like I never had a baby before ever. I got all the books. I read every midwifery book that I could find on hypnobirthing, orgasmic birth, a lot of Ina May, everything. And I tried to change my mindset so my labor this time could be what I wanted it to be. I didn't want pain. I didn't want to be scared, because even with my first VBAC, I was scared, because what if this doesn't go the way we want it to go? What if it ends up like my first one? And with my girl here, my labor was amazing. I had fun, and I made a ridiculous playlist that my midwife was judging me the whole time. And it was, we weren't scared this time. And I prepped for this birth way differently than I ever did before. Because I didn't think, nobody ever taught me to do that, to like read the books and try and change your mindset, because we're taught, right, that birth is painful and birth is hard and it is scary and it is not wonderful and not beautiful and can be fun.
Yeah. I love that you use the word fun, because for many people, that's not a word they've heard before in labor. Can you like
Yeah.
elaborate? What was fun about it? What were some of the things you were doing?
So I planned a playlist. I know a lot of people talk about playlists being like calming or sensual or whatever. And we had things like Push It and
I
and
love it.
just like fun songs to help keep the mood up. And we had it on shuffle, so we never knew what was going to play when. And let me tell you, the right songs played at the right time. Ring of Fire played at the right time. And
I love it.
it was one of those things that like we all paused and started laughing as I'm pushing, like, because we were like, oh my goodness, like really. And my midwife came in at one point and she's like, what even is this playlist? She's like, I've never heard such songs before. It was great. Yeah,
That's
she knew all the songs.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then me and my husband were left to just us, really, for the most part, until she knew she needed to stay in there for, the end. But otherwise, she gave us our space. She came in periodically to check on baby and listen. And otherwise, we hung out, we danced, we cuddled. He did the things that I asked him to do, and we did it just us
Yeah.
at the birthing center, but just us.
Are you curious about enhancing pleasure and easing discomfort in labor? Orgasmic Birth and Dame present the Pleasure Vibe Fin, a waterproof vibrator designed to empower your journey through pregnancy, birth, and beyond. Boost your oxytocin, ease discomfort naturally, and transform your birth into an empowered and even orgasmic experience. Plus, support postpartum healing and reconnect with your body. Are you ready to embrace the power of pleasure? Click below, learn more, and start your transformation today. Take us more to some of the things you had this privacy, and I love that you and your husband knew they were right there, right? I often do that analogy that good midwives are like a lifeguard, right? Like we're often in a body of water and like we know someone's there, but they're not in our space or our conversation or in the water with us even. So you had this privacy, which is so important. What are some of the things that helped you through that time and to find comfort?
So
Other than
I have
music, obviously.
right. I have really long predominal labor. So I was in like that pre-labor, early labor for about a week. Um, so at home before going in, because I really pushed it this time before and held space like in our house with our kids and just us. And obviously, besides using sex or orgasms for me as like pain relief during that early labor, he did it while I was like in the throes of labor. We obviously couldn't have sex, but he was like rubbing my arms and doing like, we call it nice touch in our house. Like rubbing my arms and my back, and nipple stimulation was huge, like while I was having like the peak of my contraction. and I couldn't do it myself because I just couldn't focus, but he did it for me. So we had all those conversations beforehand and with the midwives, so they knew to like kind of give us maybe a little more space than they typically would have, because they knew we were using techniques that maybe would have made someone uncomfortable. I don't know.
Yeah. And
But,
how was it to have that conversation with them? I think a lot of people think about more self-pleasure, but are feeling embarrassed or like they can't talk to their caregivers. What was that like to share that with them?
so I seen one specific midwife almost the entire pregnancy. And she was all about it. She said she's never witnessed a full on like orgasm in birth yet, but she's known women to use this technique a few times. She accidentally walked in a couple times because they didn't tell her they were using that technique. And she was like, "Oops, sorry. Okay, I'll come back."
Yeah.
So she was very comfortable with it. She didn't bring it up to me, which maybe would be helpful. I think if like midwives maybe brought this up to like their clients, patients, however you guys use that term. But me bringing up, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy you're doing this." Because I think you can. You just need to be in the right mindset for it.
Yeah.
So
And do you feel, having had different labors, do you feel that kind of touch and pleasure changed the pain in any way, reduced it? Was there a shift?
yeah, I didn't have any, I wouldn't call any of it painful until the very, very end when we had some complications. Um, but otherwise, even I think she did the check. I was at 9.5. We felt the bag of waters. Like I could vocalize that my water broke. We were still laughing and talking even through contractions. I didn't even realize I was bearing down until she told me.
Wow.
So I think all of
Really?
that helped because that was a completely different experience from my other three births during the whole labor process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the combo of not having fear and pleasure, right? That is just such a great combo together. Now, you
Yeah.
mentioned you had some complications. Take us through. You started pushing. How was that feeling, and what was that then like for you?
So I was bearing down before I even knew I was. She was the one that was like, "Are you pushing?" I was like, "I don't think so." But she's like, "I'm pretty sure you are." And then my waters broke and I could feel that. And I told her about that. And I they knew from my previous birth, my cervix does not completely dissolve, which is where they kind of get hung up. And so I was in the tub and she felt really bad because she knew I wanted to have a water birth this time. And she's like, "I know you want to do this, but I really think we should get out on the bed." So we did. And everything from there, I would say, is when it kind of shifted. And we did everything right, but they thought she was sunny side up. And so I was flipping back and forth from hands and knees to my back and doing some things. And she ended up having to go in with her hands and help kind of guide her and pull her out because she was very large. And it, she wasn't, once her head came out, she tried to breathe, um, and obviously couldn't because she wasn't ready. And they had to continue to pull her out even at her hips because they were so snug in there. But she had her arm straight behind her back.
Ah,
So it wasn't full on shoulder dystocia, but she was caught up right behind my tailbone. So that she had to go in with both hands and release that.
yeah.
And then she came
And
out.
this is again good midwifery. We say midwives have amazing hands and
Yeah.
heart, and that skill together to be able to gently assist, your daughter into the world. I'm sure, though, it wasn't comfortable for you, but reassuring that they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. I didn't, that's the part where it gets a little blurry for me, I guess, because it was just like the back and forth and the hands and knees, and now go to your back, now go back to your hands and knees. Like they were doing everything that they knew to do to just get her out and help me with that. And honestly, my husband got more injured than I did in that process. So he was holding my legs and he pulled a pec muscle. And I
Oh,
guess I bit him. I didn't know I bit him until after, but I bit him.
birth
So
brings out the wildness in
I
us, right?
guess.
It is a
You know,
wild experience.
but given all that, I will say the pleasure part or the like prepping for that and using that, I had a 9 pound, 6 ounce baby coming out and both my midwife's hands in, right? And I didn't tear.
Yeah,
So I contribute a lot of that to our prep and some of the things that we did to help
yeah,
with that and the pleasure part of things because that's the only time we've ever used that. And I tore with my other one.
yeah. And
So
when you think about it, and I'm so glad you brought that correlation that you realize that because when you think about pleasure, right? Pleasure, and when we're self-pleasuring, we're creating kind of juiciness, we're creating our bodies to open, right? We're doing all the things that obviously when we're alone or with a partner being intimate lead to the to making love and feeling that. But when we're birthing, we also want to be juicy and wet and open.
yeah,
And I think that so many people don't realize that when they're in a place where you're kind of not feeling safe, when you're not feeling in pleasure, and you know your body can be more closed,
yep.
we end up with more tearing or cutting and things like that. So beautiful that you felt the difference of that pleasure, creating that space for a very big baby.
She was, she still is, but she was
Yeah.
very big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people are listening and kind of, obviously, if you're here at Orgasmic Birth, you've been thinking about pleasure and that before, but it's still, something that's not talked about. And you talk about fun and that. What would you say to someone that's pregnant right now, maybe even baby one, or maybe they too have had more trauma in other births? What would you recommend they do in preparing for their birth?
Find books that you resonate with, good midwifery books. I have recommendation. Ina May helped so much. I've never, you got to get past some of the, maybe it's old school, very old school, and then just be open to the idea that that can help because it feels maybe awkward or you're self doubting that you can do that while you're in it and you can and it helps. Or
Yeah.
talk your husbands into it, have big conversations with them first and just be like, this is what I need from you and I need you to do this when I can't tell you to do it. Because that was a big thing for my husband. He wouldn't have just done that. I had to tell him, this is what I need you to do while I'm having contractions, while I'm in the midst of it and I can't tell you to do it. Do these things for me.
Yeah.
And he had
And
to wrap his brain around it too. So
And how did he feel about that?
he was uncomfortable at first because we had our daughter with for our third birth. So he didn't want to have any of the kids there if he was going to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I understood that. But then as labor was happening, he was much more comfortable.
Yeah.
Like it was leading up to it. Maybe he was a little skeptical until we were in it. And then he just did it. It was
Yeah.
like it came natural to him too. So
That's wonderful, right? And wonderful that you could communicate all the ways that you wanted pleasure and how that would, and understanding and seeing that it was a huge comfort and ease for you. That must have felt good for him too, that he could offer you that through the experience and that together you did this.
yeah, he had less fear with this one going
Yeah.
into it and like being able to maybe help because I think men sometimes feel maybe a little powerless during labor, and I don't think he felt as powerless this time. He knew he was helping. So
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Tara. And I know we'll put in the notes too, Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. I know Spiritual Midwifery, her books have been transformative for so many people. So we'll add them to the notes for people as well. How could people, if they wanted to follow up and congratulate you or reach out to you, how can they find you?
Instagram probably is the most that I use, or Facebook, just my name or my handle, I guess we could put on there. But Instagram, reach out, have any questions. I love helping people with breastfeeding questions, or anybody local to me maybe who don't know where to find midwives or midwifery care or breastfeeding care.
Fantastic. And where are you?
I'm in Menasha, Wisconsin.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, thank you again, Tara, because, talking about pleasure has some stigma. And I feel like a lot of times I hear from people quietly that they self-pleasured or their partner helped pleasured, but we don't talk about it publicly. And it's time to change that conversation. And you really are a part of that change. So I really applaud you for sharing your journey, for really staying in your strength and wisdom, and for having, such a beautiful journey and pleasurable birth. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening, we always love to hear. Tag us, post, did you have pleasure in birth? Did you use self-pleasure? What are the ways that you're preparing for birth? We always love to hear and offer you support, and we hope you'll join us next week for the next episode of the Orgasmic Birth Podcast.